It is Wednesday, the 19th of the 11th, 2025. The time is 10 minutes past 10. As always, that means one thing, that there are a multitude of F1-centric threads at which we need to pull. We'll talk about Max versus Schumacher comparisons. So too, we'll talk about the Las Vegas Grand Prix and its climb at flood settings. What are we doing here? This is monsoon conditions that we're seeing. We'll have a look at those and we'll react to it. And so too, we've got to talk about cheating scandals. It wouldn't be F1 were these teams not pushing, bending the rules and line stepping in the first instance. Let me show you guys this because it's going to get techier than techie things. And again, I don't know. All F1 journalistic publications are created equal, but some are created more equal than others. Check this clip out. I don't know whether this is right. I've desperately tried to verify, but I have failed. Let's have a look and then we'll react to it. This is the weather over in Las Vegas as at the time of writing.
Streets are flooding days before we have one of the largest street races in the world. To be clear, Vegas is not built for rain, and we flood every time we get a sprinkle. But it is unusual for us to have this many storms this late in the year. It's impacting flights at the airport, the wind is gusting, and we're in day 2 or 3. And after about day 3, Vegas starts to fall apart. The National Weather Service is beginning to issue flood and flash flood advisory for parts of southern Nevada. And people are starting to freak out about F1 because it begins in a little over 48 hours. It is worth noting that most of the flood footage you're going to see is from right here around the link, and this was built to be a flood channel. So it should flood. It's meant to handle the standing water. What no one planned for is that this could happen in late November during one of the busiest weeks of the entire year.
Now listen, let me not start celebrating. That's a bit premature from me as a Max Verstappen fan. Stan come evangelist, because of course if it is the track and they've got proper drainage, then it won't be like that, especially not come race day and qualifying, because of course per Google the weather forecast looks something like this, that on Friday during free practice sessions that we will get some rain, but not masses, not like that footage is showing us. And then on Saturday and Sunday it should be sunnier climes. That notwithstanding, Max Verstappen is of course your favourite for the Grand Prix race weekend, a big favourite, much more so than the McLaren boys in Lando and Oscar Piastri. Why? Because if past this prologue and if F1 history does not repeat, but sometimes it does rhyme, the McLaren might struggle around here. The circumstance isn't necessarily their natural habitat. The grip a bit techier, a bit low grip, the climate cooler than their car so demands, lest we forget that their strength has been their ability to mitigate for tyre deg at warmer tracks like, I don't know, Qatar or Abu Dhabi. It will be cooler, therefore it will suit, I don't know, a Mercedes or a Red Bull. Necessarily, it will get techier than techie things. George Russell here, 7-2, bet £2 and get 7 back, including his. That doesn't look too bad. Oh, and by the way, I've got to talk about some Maximilian Verstappen, because comparisons are coming out between Max and Michael Schumacher. Oh, the humanity. Max, of course, 4 champions. Michael Schumacher, one of the goatiest to have ever goated at 7 times, alongside one Sir Lewis, Carl, Davidson, Hamilton. The comparisons are coming out though by dint of one of Michael Schumacher's most close confidants. Here's what he had to say: the Max is more of an instinctive driver who decides on gut feeling and is almost always right. Weber continued, Michael did everything thoughtfully though. Every manoeuvre was calculated, preempted. Both sacrificed themselves completely for the success. They are not glamorous types who live for the show. They were and are athletes, not Hollywood stars. Touche. Their successes are always in service to the sport. Weber continues, reported by Bild, that will continue living together until the house is sold, blah, blah, blah. So you're talking about Michael Schumacher's state. Keep fighting, Michael. By the way, interesting compare and contrast that in Michael Schumacher's almost an earring willing to win, that he sacrificed everything. He was nothing if not a racing driver's racer, and that lives and breathes through his godson Maximilian Verstappen. Do you know what I mean? They went on holiday together, did Max and Jos Stradamus and Michael back in the day. Jos Stradamus, Max's dad, was in the Benetton car alongside one Michael Schumacher. So it's not lost on me. It would be remiss of me not to mention the similarities between them as F1 drivers. Oh, and by the way, I need to talk about this because this is broken out massively. Listen, the context is key. In F1, are they doing their job if they're not bending/breaking the rules? Would you not expect F1 teams to do anything, to stop at nothing with a view to get themselves even a millisecond worth of lap time and therefore durable competitive advantage? I would put forth my contention this way, that it would not be F1, that they are synonyms of each other, that indeed rubbing is racing. You've heard of a gazillion different cheating scandals, whether it's X-Wing or DAS back in the day, or TD035, or most recently TD018. Every single time they issue technical directives, the FIA, it is with a view to stamp out one of these things, skirting around the rules. Ross Brawn told us many moons ago that you read the rules once to see what they do say, and you read them a second time to see what they don't say, so that you can operate in the shades of regulatory grey. Is this not that then? The context is this. Over the past couple of race weekends, Alonso's been saying, hang on, those cars look like they're running a bit low. First-hand evidence also manifests, shows you that some of these guys the sparks are sparking. There's been a lot of them, particularly at Brazil, Mexico less so. But again, Brazil, Interlagos even being a super contour track, you would expect these ground effect cars to be run low. Lest we forget, F1 history doesn't repeat, but some say it does rhyme. Earlier on in the season, the Chinese sprint race, Ferrari did exactly that, did they not? Skirting around the rules, trying to run their ground effect car, a very mercurial SF25, super low to the ground, with a view, of course, to optimise for downforce, make it quicker through the twisties. That red car with the yellow badge and the black prancing Corsa on top is mercurial under the aegis of them not being able to run the car super low and optimise for downforce at the altar of potential DNFs, at the altar of excessive plank wear. Now, Alonso's been saying, listen, some of these guys are leveraging, weaponizing this asymmetric risk as we get into the dying embers of the 2.5 championship, running their cars low and then changing it as we go into the race proper to avoid for a disqualification because of excessive plank wear. Initial thickness of the plank, and remember, you've got two elements here, the plank and the skids, they are different. You can see circled there are the skids, the big long bit is the plank. Initial thickness of the plank is 10 millimeters. They can afford for it to wear no more than 1 millimeter come the end of the race, if indeed they're unlucky to have themselves checked. Now, FIA, many F1 fans will point their finger at the FIA because they don't check 20 cars at the end of every single race, do they? They select, normally it's the top 1 or 2 or 3, and then they will spot check a couple of others depending on what they're seeing in the race. Surely that doesn't make sense. In the billion-dollar entity that is F1, you mean to tell me you don't have sufficient human resource to check, nor infrastructure to check all 20 cars? Of course, therefore. Listen, if you're a betting man, some of these guys and girls, not just Ferrari, maybe Aston, maybe Red Bull, throughout the season have been running their cars super low because they might not even get checked. And again, there is asymmetric risk to doing this when you go into the dying embers of the 2025 season, lest we forget there are millions, no billions at stake potentially if you finish third as versus fourth in milliseconds here. Again, F1 is a story told in tense, is it not? So what else would you expect them to do? Here's the story. Alonso said that some of these guys are running excessively low. You can tell because of the way they're sparking up, both the extent and frequency of the sparks, particularly around the Brazilian Grand Prix. Alonso's like, hang on, these guys have to be doing something. There's no way their cars can be sparking up so much if they were not. And now it breaks. We find out news that Autosport JP Japan are saying that there's been stuff going on in the background. Here's what they say. There's a trick being used that the skids are being heated up and are therefore expanding, protecting the plank, the long wooden bit in the middle, from excessive plank wear. What are we doing here, chat? This is crazy. So again, so per the schematic on the right hand side of your screen, that piece being highlighted, some of the teams are expanding it, using the friction between it and the track surface to heat it up and protect, therefore, the plank from excessive plank. This is chaos, chat. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. The chat is that Joe Bauer got to work and started checking some of these teams over the course of the Brazilian Grand Prix weekend. Now, the reason for it was apparently, some were saying that during between qualifying, and the race, that there were notable differences, material differences in performance. Why? Because Joe Bauer, technical director of the FIA, got to checking. The rumour was too rife and took these bits and bobs off of these cars. Cheating, not necessarily, but again, I don't hate it. What is F1 without some rubbing and therefore racing? It's techier than techie things. But again, Joe Bauer said that he's checked it and taken it all off. Alonso's saying that the performance deficit difference between qualifying and the race is proof positive. Your boy did a quick spot check just to try and analyse for this. And I'm not sure there were too many anomalies between the qualifying performances in Brazil and the race. Maybe you can point a finger at Max and Red Bull. We know that they were having issues because of their ride height and setup. But outside of that, Alonso, 11th in qualifying, 14th in the race. Maybe he lost performance. Could Alonso therefore be talking about himself and Aston Martin? Ferrari struggled, of course, but not necessarily due to performance in absolute terms, due to incidents. Charles Leclerc dropped it on 3rd in qualifying and then obviously fell foul of a cheeky incident between him and Antonelli, and the one they call OJP, Lewis Hamilton too. I don't know, chat, you let me know whether you think some of these teams are cheating, but I will put forth this as my principal supposition. This is important. Why would they not? What's the downside? If FIA are not checking every single car, particularly not the back markers, let's say from 11th to 20th, then why wouldn't you check? Why wouldn't you skirt the rules and regulations at this juncture? Safak, Frank, John, I would, and I think some of these teams are and have been. That's why Joe Bauer, Chief Technical Director of the FIA, waved his magic wand and made these things go away. But sometimes in Formula One, these things happen and then they fade to black. No, lest we forget fuel flow gate. Whatever happened there, a cheeky settlement figure in the FIA financial statements, but we did not find out about this. I think the broader question there is one of transparency. Mohammed Ben Sulayem, not to end everything going scorched earth on MBS, but MBS back in 2021 ran on transparency and sustainability, didn't he? Robust governance. Where is that? Therefore, why is this being reported in back channels and not front and centre? Why has there not been an official FIA statement? Or we will hear about it within the next couple of weeks. Race weekends will be a cheeky FIA technical directive, and I would put forth that, ladies and gentlemen, is not good enough. But at this stage, what else would you expect from the FIA if not for ineptitude ad nauseum? What are we doing here?